We're talking about fatness. Let's talk about clothes. Don't have many of those. Until you learn about body liberation and body positivity, no one would choose to continue to be fat in a world where they absolutely hate fat people. What if it was okay to have our gut come out a little bit?
No, I love that.
What if being fat is so dangerous, not because of the health repercussions of being fat, but because of the trauma that you're going to go through no matter what, especially in the medical fields. My experience is not unique at all.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Queer Collective podcast. I'm your host, Carbon.
And I'm Emily.
And I'm Jenna.
And welcome to the show.
Today we clearly have a very special guest with us today. Obviously. We have Jenna Marie, who is a super talented vocalist, but she is also a TikTok content creator who explores topics of body liberation, mental health. So we're so thrilled to have you here with us today to help us explore the topics of body liberation specifically.
We're talking about fatness.
We're going to jump into why people might be fat, diet culture, and fatphobia, and there's so much in between there. We're going to get into a lot of really great conversation today, so stick with us and let's get into it. Kind of the space that we want to start with is, what does it mean to be a body liberationist?
Okay, so I actually found a really good definition of body liberation from the University of Vermont's website that I think, just to start things off right and strong, I'd like to read it to you both.
Please do.
Shout out to Bernie Sanders.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Vermont.
Body liberation is freedom from social and political systems of oppression that designate certain bodies are more worthy, healthy, and desirable than others. Body liberationists reject the notion that bodies that are white, able-bodied, cisgender, thin, or fit are superior, worthier, or inherently healthier than any other body.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And I think what's extremely important about body liberation is that it explores more than just the aesthetic movement, like body positivity of loving your body no matter what, no matter how thin or fat or how big or etc. It's about human rights. It's about anti-racist work. It's about anti-ableism. It's about learning about all of these systems that oppress so many people, including people in larger bodies.
I love that. And honestly, before this conversation, I had no idea that it was so all-encompassing. And I love that, and I love how inclusive it is.
Speaking of which, you mentioned body positivity versus body liberation. Can you help us identify the differences between the two?
Yeah. So body positivity first started as a movement that was run by Black women in the 1960s, queer women, by the way, who
shout out,
were doing this same work that we call body liberation now. And we're protesting for rights for people who are in bigger bodies, fat bodies. And fat, by the way, is a beautiful neutral term that we can all use in this podcast today. Please do. It's a beautiful neutral term. But what happened is that over the years, especially through social media, it has been co-opted by a lot of white women and social media influencers who at first, this is how I learned about just self-love and body love is through the body positivity movement. But a lot of the body positivity movement nowadays is really centered around aesthetics and now has become an all bodies movement, where people who are in smaller bodies, who are in thin bodies, they also want to celebrate their bodies, of course, because we all should. But people who are in super fat bodies, people who are in marginalized bodies actually experience oppression on the day to day. And so when a movement like the body positivity movement is co-opted by people who are in smaller bodies, what happens is that the people who are in bigger bodies who really need the liberation get overshadowed.
It's kind of giving all lives matter vibes.
It really is.
It really does, yeah.
Little disclaimer moment. I am not an expert in body liberation. I'm just very passionate about body liberation, and it has changed my life, my relationship to my body, my relationship to the entire world. I have learned so much about everything that happens, especially as a white woman with so much privilege. I was not aware of so many of the systems that oppress so many different people, especially people in marginalized bodies and larger bodies. I don't have a degree in this, but I have learned so much, and Actually, one of my really good friends, Bishop, has a PhD in gender studies and education. And I was talking to them, being like, I don't feel like I belong in these spaces where I should talk about this. You know, I don't have the
specifically
academic
about
background.
this.
Yeah,
the academia paper.
Yeah, I don't have that. And they were like, you don't need to have that. You know, you can be a community educator and you can learn through community. And I have learned everything through reading books that specifically Black women have written and have learned through, you know, TikTok influencers and social media. And so I just wanted to put that disclaimer out that.
Well, I feel like everybody who comes on this podcast that says they're not an expert knows a lot of stuff.
They usually drop a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I do feel like there is so much knowledge to be had in community, and oftentimes so much respect to the academic world, but I do feel like there is a level of disconnect in terms of like what's actually happening for people experiencing something.
Ground level.
Yeah, and I think both should and can coexist and are both valuable and important. So we're happy to have you on and sharing your experiences.
Thank you so much.
So this next question we wanted to ask is really tied into your own experiences. We're wondering if you could share your own journey of body insecurity to body liberation.
Well, I have always been in a large body since I was a youngling. I come from a family of very large people. I'm 5'10". I've always been bigger. I've always been chubby. I've always been, you know, what the world has considered to be fat, which looking back at photos now, I'm like, you poor thing, you were just so average. You're just so regular. I also grew up with an almond mom. Do you know what that
What is an almond?
I have one too.
What does that mean?
Well, you've been out with my mom. It's like she's ordering like a side plate, and we're like, the fuck?
Oh, as her main plate? Yeah.
And then she gives us half of it. I'm like,
Wait a minute.
What?
You gave us half of your little plate.
It's like there's only ingredients in the house.
Ingredient household. I come from an ingredient
house.
household as well, which is, for those who don't know, it's like a household where you don't have any processed foods. You don't have like prepackaged snacks. You know, like you don't really have canned meals or, you know, things like that. It's like everything is an ingredient so that it can be like clean food, right? It's prepared. It's cooked from the beginning. And an almond mom is kind of like a funny way to describe a mom that like, with love, because I know she's going to be listening and watching. Like, love you, Linda. You did your best.
Linda.
Love you, Linda, so much.
We love our moms.
You know, we love them, but they're also just under all of these, you know, systems and pressures. But my mom was a fitness instructor. So, you know, it was a little bit intense. There was a lot of dieting in my household my whole life. We know now through new studies that are coming out that being, you know, on diets when you're young is extremely harmful for you and your psyche, obviously, but also for weight gain, like, which is hilarious.
Also, just your physical.
Like, it impacts your metabolism, right?
Yeah.
Really poorly.
And I remember
your ability to study in school. Yeah.
It became an obsession very early on because it would be like approached from my family as like, we're worried about you. Like, you know, but I was an active kid too. Like, I played soccer, hockey for years, ringette. I was a figure skater. I did all of these things, you know, but I was a chubby little one.
Yeah.
And it was always like, it must be the nutrition. Like, we have to make sure, we have to keep this under control. And the more that I was put under these, like, you know, controlling food insecurity, all this stuff, like, the bigger I would get, because yo-yo dieting and crash dieting is really not good for young people, for anyone.
Yeah. Of course. From what age did that start? Like the yo-yo dieting, crash dieting?
Well, when I was, I think, like maybe 15 or 16, I remember my family doctor was like concerned about my weight and suggested that I go on Weight Watchers.
Oh.
Which at the time, you couldn't go on Weight Watchers if you were under 18 without permission from a doctor and a parent. So I was a child. I went to Weight Watchers like 5 years of my life. Every week, I would be in a room full of adult women, you know, calorie counting in their system, which is like points counting for them.
Yeah.
And like being celebrated every time I would lose a pound. Like, you know, you get weighed at the front, you go in.
Whoa, in front of everyone?
In front of
So
everyone.
you don't get weighed in front of everyone. How it works is you go in and like at the cash tellers, there are scales. And you stand on the scales.
At the front door?
Yeah, and the lady with like her booklet has your like weight and has last week's weight and weighs you and tells you how much you lost.
That seems super intense for a kid.
Yeah.
Toxic.
Well, for anyone, but like especially for a kid.
Even arguably as an adult, you know, it's a bit of a weird situation, like to your psyche too. Like you're going, and if you lose weight, you get a sticker.
It's an interesting structure for sure.
And then you go to the group like lesson after that. So everyone gets weighed and then you go to the group lesson and everyone talks about their week and they give you pointers and hints of what they consider to be healthier eating habits or lifestyle changes. But really it's like, how can we shave off points out of this meal? How can we shave off points out of that meal? And I'm just a kid. So that had a big impact on me. Fast forward, you know, I ended up developing an eating disorder, specifically binge eating disorder, which I wanted to say specifically because it's something that's not spoken about a lot. And it's a big reason for people being fat. There's not a lot of study about this, so it's really important that we like name it, I think. And through like a decade of obsession, trying to be smaller all the time, just always every diet possible, like every week, I'm going to start over, just takes over your whole life, just trying to fight back being fat, you know. I started seeing the body positivity movement on Instagram specifically, maybe like a decade ago. I'm starting to see like these radical posts of people showing like their stomachs. That was crazy. Like when people started taking photos of their stomachs, like a roll, like one singular roll, I'd be like, like I would scream like, oh my God, how could they do that? Like, oh my God, like aren't they embarrassed? You know, but meanwhile, like they're representing my body and it's like iconic. But I remember even me, I was like, how could they show themselves like this? Like, oh my God.
And that's like the fat phobia inside of yourself too, which is something I really struggled with a lot.
Well,
I'm sorry for everything you had to go through.
Thanks.
Like, it's horrible.
Well, it's, you know, gotten better through the bravery of, you know, body liberationists and people in the body positivity movement, but it's still horrible. But back in the day, it was really bad, like just a decade ago. Like these messages, these fat phobic messages, I mean, are everywhere. We know this, right? Like we know it's in the media. We know it's in movies. We know
children's TV shows.
That's really bad.
Yeah.
Just nonstop, like wherever you look. And it's in us all. Like fat phobia is deeply ingrained in us all, just like how it's so important in body liberation that we also do anti-racist work, because that's also within us all. You know, it's like an internalized misogyny. Like all of these things live here. Like we just need to control each other's bodies, especially women's bodies. And these messages come at us like nonstop. And people think truly, and I know this because I post videos of myself talking about this on the internet, get hundreds of thousands of comments of people who think
you're famous.
Well, they think it's appropriate to tell me constantly that like I am glorifying obesity. I am like killing our nations by spreading this information of like what? Love? Like acceptance? I don't understand that.
I think it's a common misconception for people to have that if you like love yourself and you have a bigger body, then you're promoting potentially toxic behaviors or potentially like promoting for other people to also be bigger. I think people start to think that it's like, hey, you should be big too, and you like put the food in your mouth, and it's kind of like it's kind of
put the food in your mouth. They should start doing that. Get bigger.
It's kind of like it's the same kind of people that are like, if you talk about queer stuff, you're gonna turn our kids queer.
You're turning them all.
Turning the fucking frogs gay.
I know. Well, that's the thing, and like that, you know, leads us to the whole big conversation about health and like fatness and size and how like most of the fat phobics that I've encountered to this day really hold on to the fact that like you might want to accept yourself aesthetically, sure, but like you are promoting unhealthy lifestyles and you are supporting basically death, like going to your death. And that is not true. It's not true at all. Like you can't tell somebody's health by their size. And in fact, we talked about this earlier, but the more that you fight your body, the more diets that you go on. We're talking like dieting, you know, crash dieting, like
not like lifestyle. Diet, like very temporary, hardcore.
Trying to lose weight, you know, like if you're doing that, if you're trying to focus on intentional weight loss as your main goal, the chances are it's not going to work. It's not going to work, and it might even like statistically make you gain more weight in the long run. But weight itself is not an indicator of health. What is though is lifestyle. And I know so many fat people who have a very active lifestyle. and who, eat so many nutritious foods and who, go about life and do things and have great social lives and have all these things and are very empowered, like they're living a healthy lifestyle. And there are some new studies coming out that show that that is truly like the most important indicator of physical health is lifestyle, not the number on the scale.
I mean, it's very easy to look at somebody who is like lean and be like, they're so healthy. But I have in my lifetime followed a lot of like fitness YouTubers over time when I was like super into like, I'm gonna go to the gym every day, and like
Gymshark.
Exactly, Gymshark. And like I used to follow all of them. And the thing was that like, yeah, they worked out a lot, sure, but majority of their time, their actual diet was so shit. It was not like an actually healthy diet. It would be like a lot of processed bullshit, a lot of like, and a lot of people are on like HRT or like cosmetic surgery or whatever the case. And like they're appearing as like really healthy beings, but you never know what's actually happening internally. How did they get there? And what are they doing to sustain that?
What does their actual lifestyle look like?
What does it look like? Yeah.
And it just keeps proving further and further that you can't tell somebody's health by looking at them, but we think as a society that fitness equals health. I think like the biggest thing that really frustrates me is that people really think that if you do the work to radically love yourself at any size, especially if you're fat or super fat and you live in like a large body, that you are gluttonous, that you are like eating all the time, that you are just like getting bigger and bigger, and that's like your goal. You don't care about your health. You don't care about anything. And that's so far from the truth. Like that's not true at all. I know a lot of fat people that eat less than some of my thin friends. Like all of this there's a lot of genetics at play.
That's the hard thing that's like so frustrating, especially when you're growing up as well, as like seeing how much your friends can eat and just like carelessly eat. Yeah. And you're like so fixated on it. And I think that can be something that's really frustrating that a lot of people don't take into consideration. Yeah. But going back to kind of the way that fat people are portrayed in film and media is like it's constantly as the gluttonous character. Thinking about Mikey from Disney's Recess is every single scene is eating.
Yeah. His only task was to eat. That was his thing.
He was one of the only like more well-rounded characters. It's like, okay, he's also a nice person, has a full storyline. Yeah, yeah. That's one of the only ones. Usually they're just the eating character or the evil character if we're looking at like Willy Wonka.
Oh, Augustus Gloop.
Augustus Gloop.
His only task was to eat.
Yeah, and that's kind of a similar theme across a lot of children's TV shows. Like oftentimes they'll never even portray any fat people in the shows either.
And
when
if
it's
they
like,
are, their only thing is eating, and
they're always undesirable.
Yeah.
Like
it's almost like they're not a real person.
Yeah, if it's a teen or a woman in the movie that is like even close to chubby, like just any bigger than super small, their storyline's always like, all the boys like make fun of me, nobody could ever love me, like no one would ever. And that's the truth. Like we live this truth, but it just keeps perpetuating this idea that like fat people can't be hot, they can't be desirable, like they can't be loved, all they do is eat all the time. It's like that's not true at all.
And they're only okay and acceptable if they're in the pursuit of becoming thin and losing the weight. That's the only time it's okay for them to be portrayed. When I've been at the lowest weight I've ever been, it's like you notice...
You mean in your adult body?
In my adult body. When I've been at the lowest weight that I've ever been and you go out in society, that's when you realize, holy fuck, the world is built so different for thin people. And that's when you're like, whoa, like I'm at the bar, so many people are talking to me and noticing me. Like I feel like it's a whole new world that I'm experiencing. And that to me is like the most hurtful, sad thing, is the way that us as a society portray fat people and like in our own minds and the way we treat each other based on our bodies. I think
and
really
it's unconscious
sucks.
bias too, like and something that I tell a lot of people all the time is like, go make some fat friends. Like just like any, oppressed group, a lot of people stick together, but it's so important that we expand and that we have different friends with different experiences. And like a lot of people that I know don't have a single fat friend. Like they do not know anything about this. And like, it's so important, not just for our society, but for our own internalized fat phobia to have these conversations with fat people and learn about them. And I personally haven't really had the experience of like losing, a certain amount of weight and like experiencing life with that privilege. But I have watched a lot of people on the internet talk about that and how it's like one of the biggest heartbreaks of their lives, because it really confirms what they thought to be true. And like the difference of, especially men treat them so differently, and like people open the door for you, and like things happen for you. And I believe it. Like I know that to be true.
Yeah. And then I gained all the way back, and then it goes away, and that's a part of it that does also feel heartbreaking, because to me it's like that weight wasn't a natural weight for me at all. That was like eating a few cashews a day kind of a vibe. Like it was
she
so
would literally,
unhealthy.
when I first met her, which was I think was at your lowest weight, right?
Yeah. That's when I was unhealthiest.
Yeah, her entire diet consisted of popcorn and canned tomato soup. Like that was it.
And I hated myself, it's like that wasn't a nice
and
vibe.
Then what's funny is that the way that we kind of turned that around was that I was doing like a dance gig where I was like doing cardio every single day, and I would come over to her place like every night, and because she only had like tomato soup and popcorn, I lost like 20 pounds. I lost a shit ton of weight. And then she was like, oh my God, I need to like start cooking. I think I need to like learn how to eat food.
It's like body dysmorphia is so real. I didn't realize how thin I had become. And then it was kind of like looking in a mirror, but of a different body. And I was like, okay, well, this is fucked up,
I think like obviously body dysmorphia is like, a disorder that is very complex and has lots of layers to it. But I do know that, speaking to a lot of people that have lived with and continue to live with body dysmorphia, is that like fatphobia lives rampant inside of our bodies, right? So much so that we're seeing a different version of ourselves, and it's just so hard to see what we actually look like. A lot of fat people have like what we call like reverse body dysmorphia, where like it's so hard to see the truth of like how large you are because of how society treats you, that like when you look in the mirror you see a smaller version of yourself, because it's easier to kind of like cope with living your life like that. And like also the way that we take selfies with our screens and like different angles, like we don't really always get to see ourselves the way that the world perceives us. So it's almost like less traumatizing to like have your brain imagine you smaller because of how the world treats you. But like working on internalized fat phobia helps not only you, of course, and your own experience, your body, no matter what size you are, but obviously it's going to really help the world and everybody else around.
And if you're doing what you suggest of making friends who are fat, it's like I would recommend doing the work before you do that, so you're not like projecting negative things onto your friends.
That's so true. That's what you want. Something so wholesome that I like love so much about my partner is that when we first started dating, there was like these small moments where I was like, I don't like what you said that, or like, oh, you don't understand. Like, you don't know what I'm talking about. And I remember I was very brave, and she's such a safe person that, I knew this was going to hopefully turn out right. But I remember texting her. I didn't tell her in person. I was sooner. I texted her. And I was like, something happened in a group, and she didn't see that there was fat phobia happening actively because it's so quiet usually. So I remember I sent her a text, and I was like, I would really appreciate it if you did some research on body positivity and the fat experience. If you're going to date me, it would mean a lot to me. And she did. And she started listening to a podcast. It's called She's So Fat, and would like learn and research and do all these things. And then we'd have these conversations. She would like bring up some knowledge. I'd be like,
that's so nice.
How did you learn that? She's like, well, I've been reading articles, and that made me feel like so loved and safe, and like I could share my experiences with her. Yeah, that meant the world to me. So I really recommend that people do that as well before befriending a fat person.
100%. And I hope that today's episode will also be like a nice resource for people to listen to as well. That'll be really helpful.
I find a lot of misconceptions that people have about fat people, and judgments and stereotypes are so harmful and so untrue that I need to talk about them. Yeah. Some of them are that we are like not strong-willed people. We're like weak character, because like we just don't stop eating. Right. We don't care for ourselves or our bodies or our lives. Another thing, people often think that we're smelly and like we don't take care of our hygiene, because how could we? Like we don't take care of ourselves. I remember one time I saw this horrible video of like these lesbians on TikTok talking about like I would never hook up with a fat queer because like they smell bad. I could never like deal with the smell. Pure fat phobia. Yeah. And actually like the majority of fat people that I know, especially femmes or women that are fat, go like above and beyond to be like the most delicious smelling, like most hygienic people that I know by far, because of this stereotype, because they like, the worst thing I can imagine is someone think like, oh, you're fat and smelly, you know, because that's a thing. It's like a real thing, because I have like rolls and I, you know, things rub up against her and it gets hot up in here. And like the fat people that I know are like the most deliciously smelling. Like we work hard because of this stereotype. Whereas like there are some like, you know, now I'm like going to talk about stereotype. There's like, you know, some like real hot queers who are like thin and like smell, you know, and but it's
that
like
natural
natural.
deodorant isn't
It's
doing
like,
what you think it's doing.
It's not doing it.
like they're natural.
I know because I tried it and it's not doing what I think it's doing.
And like some of them, because they're so like, you know, conventionally attractive, it's like a hot thing about them. You know, it's like, oh, it's they're like, they live life. They're
their
smelly.
musk.
But if I'm smelly, I am like disgusting.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing that really bugs
Yeah.
me particularly. And that we're not hot or like desirable, and like we're not, you know, experienced in love and sexuality and all of these things. This is so not true. But the truth is that like people are so fat phobic that there's groups of people that want nothing to do with us. But like you're not gonna want to get involved with someone who is like so aware of themselves and the people around them. They're so generous and so giving. Like that sounds like pretty great to me. Like being with fat people is like a beautiful, lovely, chubbalicious experience that I think everybody should experience at least once, you know?
Yeah, and I think something really interesting just on the sex side is like us not realizing how much of our sexual attractions are based on what we're worried about, what other people are going to think, and like what we think society is up to. Because even just looking back historically, it's like bigger bodies used to be so celebrated and like an image of beauty. And it's like these things just start to shift throughout history.
Well, I come from Colombia, and not currently, but back in the day, fat bodies were really celebrated because it meant that you were wealthy enough to eat that much, which is really interesting. Makes sense. So a term of endearment was to call somebody gordo, which means like fat guy, or gordita. It's like my fat little woman, you know? Like it's actually, and it's still used today as a term of endearment. Like my mom all the time to my dad, gordo, and it's like, it's sweet. It's not like,
I like that
at all meant as a discriminatory or kind of word.
I think what's interesting kind of on the fact you brought up is now with how expensive diet culture is and like this lifestyle of the almond mom of like going to Whole Foods and these juice cleanses, like it's very expensive. It's like now being in a really thin fit body is actually seen as a sign of wealth because of how easy it is to access all of this processed food. It's like it's kind of switched.
Things have shifted.
It's switched.
There's a book called Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings that is a really important read because it explains how basically fat phobia is rooted in racism. And like we're talking about these shifts that happen throughout time and how like having a big fat body was celebrated and it was like you have wealth, like you're eating good, like you're healthy, like you're incredible, we look up to you, somehow shifted over time. And this book will do a much better job than I could ever do talking about this. But basically, you know, along the way, we decided to go with the Eurocentric kind of like vision of what beauty is and like thinness and whiteness, basically, and how like that has become what we strive for because curvaceousness, fatness is like very much associated with different ethnic groups, especially like black women. So the BMI was created by a Belgian man in the 19th century. And he was a mathematician, not even a physician. And it basically was a way of, at the time, trying to figure out what like the average male is with height and weight, and then, you know, making a chart to configure that. And we still use the same one. The most common thing that people talk about when they talk about the illegitimacy of the BMI is like, we talk about weightlifters, you know, like people with muscles and how they're the epitome of health. And when they are on their chart, they're like considered obese, but they're clearly not because it's all muscle weight. So it doesn't work.
I've gone to a Good Life at like 200 pounds. They called me obese. I'm like, what the fuck?
I was one of those power lifters though that had like a lot of extra muscle back in the day. And I was also considered obese. because
That's how, like, this shit doesn't make sense.
I'm like, obviously not, but like,
as we're joking about, like people are just being called like overweight due to this number on this system, right? And it doesn't make any sense. But where it really affects a lot of people are, again, like Black women, people who like, are not thin white women or thin white men, which is what the actual BMI was made to like measure. And they're getting on these scales and looking at these charts, and they're like scoring in these places that affect them in a really, really negative way, not just psychologically because you're being called obese or whatever term, but also for life. Like, for example, a lot of systems still use BMI for insurance purposes.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Like life insurance kind of
Yeah,
ones?
life insurance.
Yeah.
So you may be somebody that if I look at you, you don't even look fat, but because you live in a curvaceous body or a marginalized body, you may score differently on that scale, and then you actually have to pay extra, or
That's
you like are
wild.
not covered under life insurance or different kinds of insurances. So it actually does like oppress people deeply.
fucked.
Obviously, psychologically, it hurts everybody because we think fat is bad, and it tells us all that we're really fat. But it doesn't make any sense. But if we could even just like take a moment to talk about like the word obese and like obesity right
Please.
now.
Yeah.
It's like a great, perfect education moment, because that word in itself in the like fat world right now is not a word that we say or use actually, because it's a very stigmatized word that is used in the medical fields and really used to like in medicalized fatphobia, which is a whole other world to talk about.
Talk about that in a sec.
Yeah, but like I would love to talk about the word obese because people use it all the time as a horrible word to like stigmatize fat people and to oppress fat people, and they think that it's like a neutral term, and they say like you have the disease of obesity, and oh, well, you're obese, like all these words, like what does that even mean? It just means you are extremely unhealthy and you are fat is basically what it means. But it doesn't help anybody, and it creates like so much shame and so much pain in fat people, which ironically creates often more weight gain and more isolation and more trauma in a person, which ultimately oftentimes leads to weight gain.
So it's kind of like a domino effect of a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like maybe you go to the doctor and they're like, you're fat, you need to lose weight. And then that makes you kind of mentally spiral. And then maybe you try a number of different things which don't work and actually makes you gain the weight back, which is statistically very accurate that majority of people who go on crash diets gain it all back plus some. And then you have to go on another crash diet to try to counteract that, and then you gain it back, and then it's just like this loop. And then also, not to mention like the mental health effects, right? Like maybe you feel more ashamed, so you want to stay inside more, which means you're being even less active.
Exactly.
And like maybe if you're home by yourself, I don't know about you, but for me, if I'm by myself, I'll tend to eat more. Like if I'm just like at home doing nothing.
And if you want comfort, like food
and
is
if you want comfort,
comforting.
absolutely.
Like food is comfort, food is culture, food
Yeah.
is like a hug, right? And if
Yes.
you're being told like, we don't want to see you ever outside, we don't want you in our spaces, and also your doctors are saying like, you need to lose weight, it should be your number one priority, all of the weight of that and the pressure creates isolation, and what really helps people to instantly feel comforted?
It's food.
Yeah. So being fat is so dangerous, not because of the health repercussions of being fat, but because of the trauma that you're going to go through no matter what, especially in the medical fields. Yeah. People die because they're fat, and their doctors are not helping them and not getting to the bottom of their problems because they're just so obsessed with telling them that they need to lose weight, and that is like always the root of every problem. You have foot pain? Well, that's because you have to lose weight.
Yeah.
What if you actually have like
something actually wrong with your
issue
foot?
that you need to get like seen? They don't care, and you have to be radical. You have to defend yourself. You have to be ready. Like for example, I have PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, which the biggest side effect of that is weight gain and an extremely hard time losing weight. It's a hormonal imbalance, right? I went to see a doctor. I've seen so many doctors, and they're like, the first thing they tell me, I'm going in because I have a cold. I'm like, my tonsils, like, they're so inflamed. They're like, well, you know, it's harder for you to breathe because you're overweight. So the first thing you should do is try to lose weight. You'd get sick less if you were less. Like, anything. Really, like, and it's not an exaggeration. And what I hate about the online commenters and people, what they say is they think that we're exaggerating because they can't fathom that to be true. But if you live, especially in a super fat body, it is like non-stop. Any problem that you might have, I have a rash, it's probably through rubbing on your fat body. You need to lose weight. It is like non-stop.
And people don't believe you. And then add on the layers too of like having mental health issues, because that's a huge piece that doctors will also blame things on, is anxiety. And then adding on another layer of being a woman or an AFAB person, because doctors don't have very much research on female bodies either. So it's like there's so many compounding issues there.
So many layers of just fucked up. Did you know that they never ever test on female animals or like bugs or anything like that, because they have a menstrual cycle, and for them it's too complicated. So we're just not going to even touch it.
Well, getting a diagnosis for polycystic ovary syndrome was an absolute nightmare. It is an extremely common thing that people have. Also, I know so many fat people who have PCOS. It's like so common. I had a couple male GPs, and thanks to like the internet, I like was so positive I have PCOS. For example, like you don't have a period for like sometimes ever, sometimes long periods of times. Like it ends up having a lot of trouble with fertility in the end. It can lead to cancer, like a lot of things very serious outside of weight gain and outside of like weight. And I really wanted to get a diagnosis because I was pretty positive that not having a period is like not good.
Like, you know, pretty clear indicator here.
And I remember this really horrible event when I went to go see a GP, and I was like, I need you to test me for this. I need you to test me for this. And he did. And it would come out negative. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm positive I have this. Like, I really was like, I know I have it. And he was like, well, it tests negative. I'm like, can we do it again? So he was like, fine. So we did it again. Negative. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I'm so sure. My symptoms align perfectly. And he's like, well, you know, maybe, are you looking to have kids anyway? I was like, well, not and anytime soon. He's like, well, so then it doesn't really matter anyway. Like you know, you can just, it's kind of cool that you don't get a period. Like, he literally said these things. He's like, try losing some weight and maybe you'll see the periods come back. I'm like, what are you talking about? I ended up asking him to please refer me to like a gynecologist. So I was referred to a woman gynecologist who told me that it is impossible to get a positive result back when you get tested for PCOS unless you were on your period.
What?
And this person didn't even know that.
Oh my God.
So it is due to my own like ferocious advocacy for myself that I ended up being brought to the right person. And she was like, oh, he should know better. Like, no, this was like many tests of negative. And I just knew I had this. And she gave me a medication that like forced a period to happen. I went right away, got tested, positive result.
All of this is compounded with so many other issues, is what I'm realizing throughout this conversations, like fat phobia, with racism, with ableism, but also with sexism and misogyny and
women's health,
lack of knowledge, lack of testing, lack of studying, lack of researching, like so much here that
we could talk about this for like 10 hours and 10 years and there's so much more research to be done. And like, I make little videos on the internet because so many people like me have gone through this time and time again and don't have anybody that talks about it because it's so shameful, you know. And like, God forbid, like, you talk about your experience of a fat person because everyone's going to comment, well, you deserved that, well, you should know better, you should lose weight. And like, it's so worth all of the harassment that I get sometimes because of the people in the comments that go like, I didn't know that, thank you so much. Like, I have been through that too. Like, this is not unique. My experience is not unique at all.
It's just invisible.
There's so many people, so few people rather, that are willing to share it also.
I'll just share one more story. When I share them, it really makes people feel like, oh my God, that's... Some people are horrified, and then fat people are like, I know this feeling. Like, so I recently made the decision to have a breast reduction. What I love about body liberation is that, in my opinion, it is like all about doing whatever you want to do with your body, and that you have the right to do that. And I had like a lot of pain, like a lot of back pain, a lot of neck pain, headaches, everything because of my breast size. So I ended up deciding, like, it was luckily very lucky and privileged. It was covered by the government, and I got that done. But the first time that I met the first surgeon that I met, who it took a year and a half, by the way, to just get an appointment with him, I told him as I entered that I am only interested in discussing my breasts and this procedure as a function, for the function of my life, not the aesthetics.
Right.
And he could not handle that. Like, he was just like, look at yourself in the mirror, and he's like taking my breasts, shaping them into the shape that he wanted me to see, and he's talking about the rolls on the side of my body, and he's like, these are going to be more apparent when you get the surgery, so you're going to have to pay X amount of dollars to get liposuction while you're under the knife.
What?
I think he was like $4,000.
He said it like
He
that?
framed it as like,
He
you
said
have
you're gonna
to?
have to.
Yeah, so he's like, to get this procedure with me, you have to get liposuction. It's $4,000.
That's insane.
And I said, oh, like, is that for the function, like for the result of the breast tissue? Or like, you know, is that so that you get the best result? Like,
Clearly not, because it's not covered by OHIP. It's not
covered by OPE.
necessary.
Thanks for saying that, because I didn't really clue that in yet, but I
Yeah.
knew something was suspicious.
Yeah.
And he's like,
That's so shady.
well, like, it's for aesthetic purposes, but we like require that you do that.
What do you mean require? What is this requirement?
So a lot, like, and people who are trying to get top surgery will know this experience even more than people with breast reduction, because a lot of surgeons refuse to do these surgeries on larger bodies. They say it's because it will not produce the optimal result.
What does that mean?
Well, what I've learned over my research the last 2 years of this whole experience is that they mean aesthetically. And they mean that they don't have the experience to make it the result that they are proud of or that they want to do. They will say that it's for function, but it's really aesthetic. And I remember him saying, there could be some complications because of your size. And I asked him, well, what would the complications be? And he couldn't tell me.
You should think about turning your voice notes on during these sessions, just
Well,
in terms of like having proof of like bullshit that they say, because some of it's like bordering misconduct.
It seems like, is that
it
legal?
Yeah.
I've had multiple doctor's appointments that I believe I could write a complaint and like potentially like really
Sue
have
them?
somebody sued.
Yeah.
Many times. I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of fat people have.
Yeah.
But he was so like flustered with my questions, and he felt like I was being combative, I think, and his pride and his ego got in the way, that he ended up saying the most like violent, fatphobic stuff to me to just, I believed, make me like shut up. And he was like, well, you know, you could die of this, you can die of this, you can die of this. And he just like started spitting all these things at me. And then he goes, and you know, if you want to have the best result possible, then you should consider losing a significant amount of weight. I said, okay. At this point, I'm like, we're sparring, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so you say like after today, it could take how many months until I get the surgery? He said 2 months. I'm like, so how much weight do you think I should lose in 2 months for the ideal result? He goes, 100 pounds.
In 2 months.
What?
He knows that's not possible.
Or healthy.
He just
a
wanted
doctor
me-
recommending
no.
that.
And extremely dangerous to even say that.
Yeah, so I ended up, like, I was so proud of myself because
Yeah.
it was such a long wait to even meet anybody in the first place. And I've been so desperately needing this to happen because it's so
Yeah.
painful. But I decided I am not going to go under the knife with this man. I don't care how
I'm
desperate
glad
I
you decided
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So I told him no. And I waited another year for another person. I met this woman who ended up being my surgeon in the end. And when I went to meet her, I was like, the last surgeon and I, like, we discussed, like, I have to pay lipo, like, for the size. Do I have to do that? And she's like, no. She's like, no,
God.
we can if you want. That's aesthetic, though. And she's like, I just want you to know that the reason we offer that is because some people are not used to seeing that they have like rolls on their sides, and like aesthetically they're unhappy to see that because their breasts are smaller now, so you can like see that. And I'm like, oh, I know they're there. Like, I'm good with that. She's like, yeah, no, we don't need to do that at all. It's not important. I'm like,
So what? This other doctor put up a fight just so that he could get what he wanted aesthetically?
Yeah.
Like, is it his own personal vision of what
Yeah.
you should look
His
like?
portfolio.
His own
Yeah.
fat phobia of wanting
Yeah.
to control your body is like what it feels like. It's
100 pounds in 2 months. Oh
and
my
I have a friend who's like been looking for surgeons to do their top surgery.
Yeah.
And they're like in a larger body as well, and people they just say no, we don't do that on larger bodies. Like, it's very, very common. Like, if you speak to some trans friends who are in larger bodies who have been looking for this, it's extremely hard to find like a person who will do it.
Which
at
is
all.
so horrible because then you get in this position like you were in where you're considering letting this like really violent person put you in this vulnerable position and like do something to
out of
like
desperation.
Out of desperation, because you've already waited a whole year for something where it's like potentially like a top surgery where it's gender affirming, or something like this where it's based on pain and a need. But I am glad that you waited and you found someone that was better for your situation. Because
and I asked her, like, I heard there's so many risks, like, can you actually name them for me though? And she's like, I do this all the time on people on all sizes, like, you know, it might take a little longer to heal, and like we have to make sure the anesthesia is like really good, but it's gonna be amazing. You're gonna love it. You're gonna see like you have so much relief. I got you.
So
I'm glad that ended up being your experience.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
Me too.
In the nature of wanting to like smash these misconceptions, I would love to ask you what are some of the reasons why some people may be fat?
I love this question because, you know, in the world of misconceptions, everyone just thinks one thing, and that is that we are just like eating all the time. I'm like nonstop eating. And that's not even true. And like, let's say it is, you know, like that is one reason why some people are fat, because they're overeating. Okay. And that's that. Like, that's okay. You know, people are deserving of like their rights and medical care and attention, no matter what they look like and whatever size they are.
And respect from other people.
Yeah. Just general, like just respect. But I think like there are so many reasons why people are fat. Genetics play a big part. Obviously, depending on your ethnic background, you may be considered fat. Like we're talking about these Eurocentric, like, you know, definitions of what thinness is versus fatness. So that might be something that like maybe your family or where you come from, people are more curvaceous, more like what we consider to be fat. So that's a big thing too. A big reason that I think that a lot of people are fat is because we live in a fat phobic society. And I think that actually creates like a lot of food insecurity, a lot of body shame, a lot of trauma. And this is like maybe a controversial take, but I don't think that the majority of fat people, until you learn about body liberation and body positivity, but as a fat person myself, no fat person wants to be fat in this world. Like, no one would choose to continue to be fat in a world where they absolutely hate fat people. People think that I'm glorifying obesity by spreading the word and like telling everybody about this information. Trust me, I wouldn't recommend anybody be fat in this world. It is horrible. It is so traumatizing. It is so isolating. People are evil. They are cruel. Strangers think it's okay to tell you on the bus, you're fat, you should lose weight, you're disgusting. Like, it's nonstop. And that leads to people isolating themselves and like seeking comfort through food.
We need to normalize fat people existing in every space possible, right? Especially places like the gym. Like, if you see somebody that's bigger body at the gym, when I see something like that, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, wow. I think that we glorify people who are like super ripped and jacked and like all the stuff that they're able to do. But it's like, yes, that takes a lot of hard work. Of course, absolutely. You got there. Look at all your skills. Good for you. You're amazing. But when you're in a bigger body, do you know how much extra work it takes to do half of the shit? Like, you're pushing yourself so much more. I think it takes a lot of like strength and courage and mental as well, not just physical.
That's what I want to say
right?
too. Like, just getting into that space.
Yeah.
You deserve like an award.
What I see is like, yes, you did a lot of work to get here, but now that you're here, it's so easy for you, right? Like, it's actually super easy for you at this point. For the bigger person that's doing the same run that you're doing, it's so much harder, and they're doing it. Like, that's amazing. We should celebrate that.
Well, this is the hypocrisy of fat phobia that drives me off the rails, is that you are just hated for being fat, period. You cannot win.
Yeah.
And people actually will say that they are doing this to you to make you come to and lose the weight. But what they're actually doing is keeping you fat, making you more fat. If fat phobics actually cared about our health and our well-being, they would be doing what you're saying. They'd be celebrating us.
Yeah.
But what they do is they make fun of us at the gym.
Yeah.
And they videotape us. You get made fun of at the gym. People stare at you. It's like, isn't this exactly where you want me to be?
Yeah. You can't win with
I
people.
should like enter and you should put on a crown on my head because this is where you want me to be. This is where they all say get your ass to the
But
gym.
you know what the shitty thing is, that they want you to be there, but also don't talk to me until you're super thin. Like, until that point, all of your experience, all of the times that you go to the gym, all of those are like invalid, not good enough, like keep trying harder, you suck, until you get to that final destination where they want you to be at, as this like super thin whatever. Then it's like, okay, now we'll celebrate you. Now you did it. But it's like, no, like now it's like pretty easy now. It's all of the time before that was hard. That was the hardest bit.
So people just tell you, like, just get out there and do some exercise. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about that.
Please.
Because even just going for a walk outside, okay, so it's free, so you don't have to worry about, paying for a gym.
Yeah.
Let's imagine that I'm going to give you 100 pounds of weight, and I'm going to give it to you to carry. Go for a walk.
That's so hard. It's fucking hard.
People just don't get it. It's like, I am carrying extra weight. It is not just like, go do it. It is fucking hard. It is heavy. And there are people on the street who are going to most probably mock me at some point of this walk. And then I'm going to have my internalized ableism, my internalized fatphobia.
Yeah.
I'm going to hear these words, these horrific memories are going to come into my head. It is going to be a horrible experience for me because I am like, I'm replaying things of judgment. Like, you can't even go this far. Like, you're only going 10 minutes. Like, you suck. Like, you can barely walk. You're out of breath. Like, you're out of shape. It stops us from doing what we need to do to keep well, to get some movement in.
On the other hand, if you were a thin person carrying 100 pounds on your back,
people
you know how many people would be like, wow,
people
you're
like,
amazing.
let's turn it into a TV show.
People would think you're like, how some people do their workouts with those like body harnesses, right? Like with all those weights. Everyone's like, they're so hardcore. I'm hardcore every day. Like, give me
what
some
about
of
me?
that.
Like,
I'm wearing it.
I'm hardcore.
It's just natural. Well, I like started this mini series before I got my surgery, and I look forward to continuing it, where I'm encouraging people who want to walk upstairs to walk upstairs. And I know this is like so niche, but I'm going to explain it to you. Is that, of course, it goes without saying that we deserve as people and anybody to take an elevator and escalator if you need to. And it should be accessible to every single person without judgment. Should be at every subway station. I mean, maybe it's not obvious. It's obvious to me, but really not.
Absolutely, it should.
For any person, anybody.
For any reason too.
Yeah.
You have a baby. You have a stroller. There should be an elevator.
There needs to be.
Fucking come on.
Yes.
Like,
so I'll just disclaimer, like, I know this to be true, but I also know that there are people like me, and I'll just speak for myself, but I know through the comments that other people feel this way too, that I want to take the stairs at the subway. But I have been harassed so many times for being too slow going up the stairs, for being out of breath, for just existing in my body going up a staircase, that I am terrified to do it. And then all of these fat phobes who are saying, like, take the fucking stairs, you don't understand the intricacies of doing that.
Yeah.
You don't understand that, like, I actually am absolutely terrified of doing that, and that it's actually safer for me to go take the escalator with like a mass amount of people than to take the stairs and be like pointed out as a fat person going up the stairs. And so I started this series on TikTok where I'm like, we're going up the stairs, fatties, like, we're fucking doing it. And if it takes me 10 minutes, it's gonna take me 10 minutes, but I deserve to like start going up them. Like, I want to take the stairs. I want to, and I'm able to right now. And so I do it one step at a time, and I let people walk past me. I have to be in like a really like courageous place to do this. Sometimes I decide it's not the right day to do it for my psyche, but I get up to the middle and I pause, and I am breathing like this, and I let myself breathe it through, and then I go up to the next part, and I record myself breathing, and I do it with people, and I post it on the internet, and like the amount of people. It makes me feel so, like, seen. These kind of things, like, they make me want to cry. Like, it makes me feel so seen that, like, my very niche experience is something that, like, the majority of fat people experience, too.
I gotta say, too, that this is something we do every day is, like, walk upstairs. And it's something that I didn't even fully clue into completely. That, like, the intricacies of how scary it could be for you to take the stairs. Like, seriously, I wouldn't have even thought that people would be so cruel to do, like, just walk around me. Why are you being a dick?
They're not. They're just obsessed with fat people. All people are obsessed with us. And oftentimes this happens in isolation. So a lot of
Which is even scarier in a subway station where there's like a lot of also crime happening right now and being
really
published.
scary.
Yeah.
But like the thing is that the people in your circles, your social circles, your friends, family, like they don't see it happen. They don't know it happens. And sometimes people don't believe me. Like they think I'm exaggerating or like I'm being sensitive or I'm like assuming that someone's dirty look to me is like not about me. And like, sure, maybe that's true. But I've actually had people verbalize this to me all the time.
Yeah.
And my partner was with me a few months ago and we were in the subway and this man like really scared the shit out of us. And he was screaming at me like, you fucking cow. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here, but
Yeah.
he was saying like, he was like, you fat fuck. Of course you're taking the fucking escalator. Like yelling at me.
Holy shit.
Normally this happens when I'm alone. But it rarely happens with someone else. And she was so scared, naturally.
Yeah.
And I was filled with rage because of all this work that I've been doing.
Of course.
And I could feel it, like, rising up. So I turned around at him and I was like, fuck you! Like, I raged out.
Yeah.
And he was like, fuck you! And then I was like, get fucked! And then I turned around and I, like, go up the stairs at the, like, extreme pace because I,
Yeah.
And like it's
I
funny,
love the
but
get fucked.
I
love the get fucked.
I was so fucking mad because it's just so cruel.
Yeah.
It's extremely cruel.
But I got home and I had like an hour's worth of an anxiety attack.
Yeah.
I wept.
Yeah.
I was so embarrassed
It's
that my
intense
partner
to
saw
experience
this.
those kinds of emotions.
Fucked too, because for you, it's a traumatizing experience that obviously you still remember, that you're still gonna talk about, that is gonna affect you every single time that you try to take the stairs, or every single time that you take the escalators. Either way, you can't win.
You can't win. That's the thing. You
Yeah.
can't win.
And then for them, that's just another shitty day's work for them. Like they're probably forgotten.
Do you feel
Done.
like in situations like this, is there anything someone can do as like a bystander or like in terms of like allyship as
Yeah.
well? Like what can people do to be allies in these situations? Because it's really horrible to hear that like you're going through this alone.
Yeah, well, I mean, when like very obvious violences happen like that,
Yeah.
like someone yells at me, nobody gave a shit.
Yeah.
Like everyone just kept walking. Would be nice if maybe a man
Yeah.
or someone
Yeah.
was like, hey, like
Yeah.
leave her alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be nice, you
Yeah.
know? As for like when you're like actively with someone and that's happening, like naturally there's a safety issue. So like maybe you don't want to like go out and fist fight them for me.
Yeah.
But obviously to support and know like that a lot of us have so much shame about being fat that we will like pretend it's all good. It's like, it's all good. It happens all the time. It's not all good. Trust me, it's most probably not all good. This is why body liberation is so important, because you're understanding that it's not just about like loving your body at every size. It's like people go through like active like violence all the time.
Yeah.
And like giving your friend the space and the time to like process that with you and not just be like, forget that person, he doesn't mean anything. It's like, are you okay?
Yeah.
And also just in any kind of situation, conjuring up that much emotion to yell it back at someone too is like, just like in terms of your nervous system is a lot. And it's like, like you said, like I would go home and cry and have a panic attack as well.
I think like most of us don't yell back, like
Yeah.
most of us are scared and we internalize it and we run away,
Whatever your reaction is, it's still,
But like in that time I was just like so sick of this injustice. But I think that's the biggest thing is, support us like emotionally.
Yeah.
And like voice, like that was not okay. Like that was so violent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that really helps to feel seen and supported. A lot of times people are like, oh, he's a loser anyway. It's like, that's actually invalidating. It's so much more than that. It's traumatizing for us. It's horrible. One thing that really helps as a friend or a loved one, or more than even just learning about fat phobia, is like this. I know this helps people to have different like ability as well, is to offer up different options to your friend, foresee things that could be challenging. So for example, when I'm with a group of friends, they're just going to take the stairs like all the time. And I'm like, fuck, shit, I don't want to be like, hey, everyone, like, I'm sorry, like it's really stressful for people to advocate for yourselves. It's really great to have someone be like, do you want to take the escalator? And then you don't have to be the one to say it. You're like,
And just offer the suggestions.
Yeah. Or like, should we take the stairs? Or like, should we just take let's take the escalator? Like, because a fat person's probably going to be like, no, it's all good. We can take the stairs. We can take the stairs. Like, I have so many fat friends and we talk about this. And having someone be like, no, really, like, are you sure? Like, I'm cool. I want to take the escalator. And you're like, okay, I want to take the escalator too. Like the options, something that my partner does for me all the time, which I really appreciate. There are a lot of seating areas that are not great for all people.
Yeah.
Like sometimes booths are like pre-constructed, like you can't move the seat.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of fat people can't fit in the booth. Like a lot of fat people can't fit in certain seats. So it's nice to not have to like deal with the possible fear of people rejecting you and having your friend or your family member who you trust to be like, hey, we would prefer sitting like in with these seats, please. And then you're like, yes, okay, like I didn't have to do it. Like,
and you
like,
feel like a bit of a burden, no? Like,
and like because there's so much shame about being fat because of our society, it's not like you don't feel like you're allowed to say anything about it. You know, and like you don't want to upset your thin friends. You don't want them to like judge you or whatever. But start seeing the world as an experiment. Like start seeing the ways that maybe the world's not constructed for fat people. How can I like start seeing the ways that my friends get affected? This is why I like make some fat friends so they can tell you a bit about their experiences. The subway seats are very small. You know, so you might not even think about it. You might just like grab a seat. But if you're sitting with the ones like with the poles next to it, that's gonna like jam into me big time. And I'm like, I would say something at this point, but most people wouldn't. They'd probably just like sit.
Just like be bruised tomorrow.
A lot of fat people sit like this. Because they don't want to take up too much arm space. Because their arms can go on yours. Look, if you start looking for this position, you are going to see it everywhere. Fat people sit like this because they don't want to take up too much space. So say to your friend, hey, relax, like let your arm go. I love touching you. Like let's just like let's cuddle up. That like when people say that to me, I'm like, okay, thanks. And there's so much stress in my body. I get to just
like finally relax and sitting down.
Like it's okay that we're touching. I'm not like disgusting.
I would love to chat more about the hidden ways that society is pushing fat people to the margins, because I think throughout this conversation you've brought up so many things that I thought, like, even just in researching this episode, I was like, okay, I've like learned a lot, but you're bringing in so many things. I'm like, holy shit. And I'm just like, I didn't even realize so many of these things. So I'm really appreciating all of the experience and insight that you're bringing to the conversation. So
let's talk about clothes.
Yeah, would love to.
Don't have many of those. Clothing is a serious issue. Like sizing is a serious issue. This is like one of my biggest pet peeves are when people in standard sizing from like 0 to 12 try to tell me that they relate to this experience. So just letting you know that that is like something that drives plus size people crazy, because it is not.
It's not the same.
It is. You cannot compare it. I cannot shop for clothes. In person. I can only go to 2 stores in the entire Toronto Eaton Centre, which is one of the biggest malls in the country.
You go to the Eaton Centre.
Yeah, well, I have nowhere else to go.
No, I assumed that. I was just making a joke.
That's the thing. It's like I actually cannot go any. I have to go to. I hate
the mall.
Okay, thank God.
I
just wanted to check. I wanted to check with you that you also hate the mall.
She's anxious. She's overstimulated.
The bright lights.
The noise.
But also the overpowering smells from everywhere.
And everyone's walking into you. No one knows where they're going.
No. I fucking prepare to go to the mall. I'm like, I'm going to Old Navy because they have some bigger sizes now. Not really, though. That's another thing. Or I'm going to Torrid.
Torrid. Yeah.
I don't even know what Torrid is.
It's the only plus size store in the mall.
It's specifically a plus size store.
Okay. So from like XL to like 5XL, I think.
Right.
That's it. You know, if I have an event to go to and I would like to purchase an outfit, I need to know like a month in advance. Because I need to order online. Or I need to go to the mall. And I'm not going to find anything at the mall.
And the mall is traumatizing on its own.
Just like for everybody, you know, but I've had somebody literally say this to me. They're like, oh, that's so terrible. But like, honestly, I have like so many options at the mall that it overwhelms me beyond understanding. So at least like you can like really focus it on the 2 stores that you go to.
Don't say this.
Like just a friend. And I remember being like, is this a joke?
we just recorded a podcast with Vivek, Shreya, and they do a lot of stuff kind of on like mourning and like allowing us to sit in our emotions and feel our own emotions. And it's kind of like on a different topic of like your own dreams and those kinds of things. But one thing that she noticed is that our society won't allow people to sit in that. It's like we always have to turn it to a positive for some reason. Yeah. And it's like sometimes it's okay to let people sit in their emotions. Yeah, but it's kind of like an instinctive thing though in like our culture is that we can't stand someone feeling negative. Like you need to fix it, you need to turn it a different way, but it's like that can be very invalidating.
Oh, so what you mean validating. Yeah. And like thrifting is not a thing I can do.
Yeah.
I cannot thrift. There are no sizes for me. And if there are, the chances are they're going to be taken by people who like to wear an oversized look. Yeah. In Toronto, every time I've gone thrifting with a friend who wants to go thrifting, I have never found anything ever close to my size. And so like the joke within the fat community is like, I'll be at the accessories. Like,
in the home goods.
That's like another way that you can be a good ally, by the way. It's like if you're going group shopping or something, be like, hey, like, are there stores that you would like to go to that we can hang out in and look at clothes for you, even though we don't fit in it, because your fat friend's going to hang with you for like 6 hours at the stores that they can't buy.
Yeah.
And you're like, why aren't you looking for anything? It's like, friend, I cannot buy anything here. So lately, like, there has been a big rise in like more size inclusivity, which is really great. Mm-hmm. But it's capped out at still quite a small size there's a mid-size, mid-fat range, which is like what people believe to be plus size. It's not. Mm-hmm. So it's like these new sizes between like 12, 14, 16, 18, sometimes a 20. Yeah. It usually stops at like 18.
I'll also say like sizing is so varied from store to store too. It's like in some places I'm an 8 and then in other places I fit into a 16 and I'm like, that's fucked up. That doesn't make sense, especially for someone who's like trying to rely on these sizes.
Yeah. That just shouldn't exist. Which can we just one standard sizing guide for every why am I shopping at 2 different stores and getting like completely different numbers? Like that makes no sense.
I know, that's really wild.
It's crazy.
That exists in the larger sizes too. Like online, you have to know like which ones are true to decide which one aren't. Yeah. And like it really frustrates me that they are extending sizes to a cap. Like why can't you just include 2 more sizes? I don't understand. And in America right now, where the average size of like a woman is 16,
exactly,
that's a plus size.
Yeah.
They don't even care. They don't even carry it. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense.
Even if we're just looking at it in terms of business, it's like when a huge chunk of the population is this size, just like in your capitalist brain, you think you would do that, but that's how far fatphobia goes.
If you see a fat person with like hella nice fashion, you need to give that person all of the love and validation in the world, because they have gone to the other sides of the universe. They have worked so hard. Like, they have put it together. Yeah. They have, like, they've gone through the black market. They have found it. They have created. They have sewed. Like, when I see, like, fat people with, like, hella crazy, amazing fashion, I'm like, you must be a god. Yeah, because there's no clothes.
Yeah.
You know, and if there is, like, you have to pay so much. You have to find all of these
custom made things.
Yeah. And something that hurts me and pains me is that I know that it's so important to like shop sustainably, right? And like, you don't want to do the fast fashion thing. It's like bad for the planet. It's bad for the environment. But when you are plus size, you really don't have that many options. And I find like on the internet, a lot of people give like fat creators a lot of flack for like shopping at Shein, you know, but Shein just extended their sizing to go to 6X for like prices that people can afford. So it's like a bit hard because yes, that brand is like killing the planet and like it's very bad. But you don't have that many options as a fat person.
Or other creators that are in sizing that they can find clothes anywhere else. It's like, hold them to a higher standard because it is important because they have a platform. They're sharing it with a lot of people. But for other folks, I think this is like another good allyship moment where it's like, realize that there's not very many other options.
Where it's like, hey, dude, you do what you buy from where you gotta buy.
And like, what happens, you know, when a fat person has some really cool options for their outfits and is like feeling fresh in their outfit,
Feeling themselves.
they might want to like go outside and like be around people and feel a little bit less shame. Like they might feel empowered, and like what is that gonna do? It's gonna allow them to have maybe better mental health, like maybe like get around town, like move a little bit more, have a little bit more stuff going on, and like so that's good, you know. I think like people are like, we don't want to offer size 28 because we don't want to support fat people getting fatter. It's like that's not. Everyone has it so backwards. That's not what happens. What happens is people, it's a right to have clothes, you know, and to be able to clothe yourself, but also like we deserve to look like cool too and like feel good about ourselves.
I think people misinterpret it as like, if we make like a size 24, we're going to encourage people to be size 24.
Yeah.
Where actually the opposite happens. Like by not creating a size 24, we're telling them that they should stay inside and not have a social life, not be active, not do anything that makes them feel better, and then continue to find comfort in food.
We keep coming back to this point. It's like people have it, they don't understand that. And if like people can take something away from this like conversation, it is that like oppressing and shaming and like excluding fat people from life and from experiences does not make them want to like lose weight, like change their size.
Or
it
even be
isolates
happier,
us.
or even be healthier in any capacity.
It's just bad for all.
One last thing I kind of wanted to piece into of like my own experience of the way that I've found a way to love my body more as it's like shifting and changing. My weight fluctuates so much, is owning a lot of different sizes of clothes has been really helpful to me, instead of like shoving my body into like these clothes that don't fit me anymore. Is just being like, okay, that's cool. I'm this size now, and I just like put on the new pants, and that feels good for me. And that's like a way that I'm not constantly putting on my clothes and hating myself every morning. And it's like I have a big bin in my closet of like all different size of clothes, and I just fluctuate through them so I don't have to like buy them again, because that can be really hard economically.
Well, I think that's a really common experience like for most people, but you know, especially if you're like changing in size, getting bigger, a lot of people hold on to smaller sizes too, and they keep them and they're like just waiting to fit back into that. It's their goal. Like some people will display smaller items that they want to fit into as motivation, etc. This is just another example of like really torturing ourselves, like at any size, you know, to like trying to fit yourself into a pair of clothes that don't fit anymore, or like having your full closet be full of clothes that don't fit you anymore. Like honestly, there's a certain amount of privilege with what I'm about to say, but like give it away. Just give it away. And if your body ends up going to that place at another time, then slowly, you know, start getting items that are in that size and do it again. But the pain of that experience, like if your goal is to like keep that, because one day like I'm gonna feel how many of our moms have like so much clothing that they don't fit into that they have when they were like, you know, 20 years earlier in life.
That's why, I mean, if you are in a tough financial position, pack it away. You know, don't have it in your closet. I find the torture of having it in your closet is something really hard. It's like
that's a constant reminder.
It's on your rotation. You can pack it away, but also pack away your larger size clothes too. If you're like maybe in the middle of it, it's like save both, because both are fine. Going in both directions is totally okay and healthy and normal, especially if you have like a reproductive situation going on that like fluctuates your weight a lot.
I've heard that to be a very painful experience too, is people will throw away their bigger clothes when they get into a smaller size.
Because you're like, woohoo! But
like,
it's like,
done,
you might go back. It's fine.
But then if you need to go back, that pain and that shame of having to purchase like the clothes, this is something you need to like, you know, drill into your brain, because our society doesn't want us to think this way, and capitalism does not want us to think this way.
Right.
But like our clothes are made to serve us. Like our clothes are made to serve our bodies. Like we're not made to serve the clothes. You know, so if you're like forcing yourself into a pair of jeans that are not comfortable for you, especially like if you're a fat person and your jeans create like holes and dents in your body, or any size, like unless you aesthetically just like love the skinny jean look, get another size. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
And you deserve it. You deserve to be comfortable.
And one thing I really realized is just from like a fashion perspective is like when you wear clothes that actually fit your body's going to look nicer and you're going to feel more confident as well. Cause like when you're sitting down, you're not like so focused on your gut. And it's
How
like, you're just like, I can't breathe.
You're just like hating every minute of wearing that. And you're like, I can't wait to go home and take it off.
And if you really loved like a skirt at a different size, just pack it away and maybe you'll have it again down the line, you know? And that's totally fine.
It's like it's a little bit of a segue, but it's like another reason why body liberation is so important for fat people, but for all as well, because so many of us just absolute dread and fear the possibility of looking fat. Like in any shape, because that is like being fat is in our society like the ultimate horrible, gross, terrible thing that no one wants to be. And we wear clothes sometimes that restrict us and that don't serve us. And we're terrified of getting our photo taken at a certain angle. And like, what about this? Like, what if it was okay to have our gut like come out a little bit? Like, what if it was okay to have a pair of pants that don't suck everything in? Like, what if it was just comfortable? And like, what if we have guts?
Yeah. No, I love that.
What if like guts like side note are like pretty hot. But what if we just let it be? Like, what if we didn't fear fatness the way we do?
And that was another piece where I'm like on kind of the sexuality side where I feel like it's so just like something that's taught, because we went to this rave when we were in Melbourne, and the girls that we bumped into there, I'm like, okay, they had a stomach that looked like mine or like bigger than mine too, and both of them just had their stomachs out and like their skirt was low, you know, like around their low hips instead of being up. And I was like, I never thought I could do that. Like, I've always worn high-waisted pants because that's the part of my body that I really dislike, and I always hide it. And just looking at that, I was like, it made me feel so good and free that night. I was like, I love it so much. And then last night, we went out, and our friend Louise did the same thing, like had really low pants on. And I was like, I just kept telling her, I was like, you look so sexy and hot right now, and I love it. And then I went to the bathroom and I pulled my shit down and I had my fucking sides out. And I was like, that's great.
Courage.
I love it.
Encouraged you.
Yeah. And I love that. And it's like just
I love that.
Living
The
your body.
thing that looks the best on people is confidence.
Yes.
Regardless of size.
It's hot.
It's so hot. Like, if you're super shredded and like super like, oh, but does this look, but does that look, you're not going to be attractive regardless of like what way you are. It
Curves are beautiful. Your body is beautiful.
Yes. And confidence in them is so hot.
Like, think of how, if we allow ourselves to do the work, all of us, especially people who are not in fat bodies, to like really work on accepting and loving fatness, and people who are fat, and we work through this, and you know, we do this stuff, and we're past that part now. We love fat people. Imagine how hot fat people are when they are confident. Not because, how radical is that? Like, how radical is it with everything that you've learned about my experience of being a fat person that sometimes I have the courage to show up in like a crop top. Like, when I see a fat person in a crop top, I'm in love. I'm like, this person's radical. This person is a politician. This person's an activist. Like, this person is like radical. Like, they're deciding like, I don't give a shit. Especially a queer person on top of it. Like a person of color who's fat and just letting it all like hang loose. Like, that is so sexy. And if we allow ourselves to see how sexy that is, like, imagine, like, I just want to say, I just want to say kudos. Like, we need to like love and like, we need to find these people attractive, because I don't find it fair that people don't find fat people attractive. Like, how can you not? It's just because you have to let go of this whole idea that fat's ugly. And see that, like, not only are we hot, but we're also like radical when we are dressing like that. We are like taking a risk on life, like in society.
And I think it really stems from our own self-hatred. Honest to God. It's like internalized fat phobia that you project outwards when you think a fat person isn't hot or beautiful.
A lot of people try to find confidence in their body, in their size, by practicing fat phobia without even knowing it. So a lot of like body positive people will accidentally, and I've noticed this a lot online, use fat phobic rhetoric to like make themselves feel better. And you cannot liberate yourself by comparing to other bodies and by ever deciding that any body is bad. Or so what I mean by that is like I got in like so much trouble last year for having like a online like battle with a body positive person who was saying to her followers, go outside and take the walk. You're not as fat as you think you are. And like I've heard so many of my friends gas each other up and help them each other with confidence by saying like, you're not fat. Like you're not fat. Like don't think you're fat. You don't look fat in that. Do I look fat in this? No, you
like
don't
it's
look
a bad
fat.
thing.
It doesn't help us.
Yeah.
And it just continues
It's
this
still
cycle.
perpetuating the same thing.
It perpetuates it and it doesn't heal us. And I'm not just talking about like respect for fat people or like very fat people, like even in yourself, like you're not going to heal your relationship with your body by fearing ever looking or being fat.
Yeah.
Like I was so upset at that woman by saying like you're not as fat as you think you are. First of all, that's like body dysmorphia central. Like I don't know if that's
It's
helpful.
also so relative. Like what?
What does
How
that
do you know
even
how
mean?
fat I think I am?
Yeah,
like, so should I not go for a walk because I know I'm fat? Like, what about me?
Yeah.
You know, and like, what if you are? Like, you should go for a walk.
What
too.
if you are as fat as you think you are? You should still walk and you should still wear the crop top.
Yeah,
You know?
like so many people will say, no, like, you're not fat, don't wear, you look good. And they go like, okay,
But
thanks.
it's still perpetuating like, you're not fat, therefore you look good.
Yeah.
Rather than like, yeah, you're fat and you look fucking
and
amazing.
you just look good, period. You know,
Yeah.
like some people will say, like, do I look fat in this dress? And you're supposed to say no. But
Right.
sometimes you want to say like, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
And you look hella good in it. Like your belly is showing, like, and it's hot. Like I'm liking it. I like what I see. But like that would be the worst thing that you could say to certain people.
Yeah. Well, I think we've made it's like what society makes it okay for. So for example, nowadays, if you say, damn, that booty looking thick, it's a compliment. But it's like, it's same thing. It's like having a fat ass, you know? Like, but people are like, okay, this is okay now.
Yeah, there's certain parts of the body, like fat distribution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is like praised in certain parts of the body and in certain people.
Yeah.
But if you have like a big belly, bad.
Get
you
rid
know?
of that shit right now.
I think it's like allowing yourself to look at fat people online, following hot fat people, following like clearing your feed out of like, you know, the same people all the time. Like we always talk about visibility with like anti-racist work and like queer, you know, like all of these things, but we don't talk about with fatness. It's like maybe follow a few more fat creators, like see them on your feed, like neutralize this, normalize it.
Throughout this piece, we've been talking about the fact that fat phobia does infiltrate our own psyche and we project it onto other people. It's an experience that I definitely did, and I know that a lot of other people do. I'm wondering in what ways this can show up, and perhaps if you've personally experienced this as well.
I think that we probably literally all are fatphobic or have internalized fatphobia because the society is set up this way.
Yeah.
So it's going to be ingrained in you. So like you don't even have to worry if you are or not. You probably are. You know, it's in you. And so the question is, what do we do with that? Like, how do we deal with that? We listen to podcast episodes like this and we learn a little bit more and we have open conversations and we name it. We talk about it and we also name it within ourselves. And I think that's the big thing is like, if you find yourself seeing a fat person and going, ugh, I just like realize, like see yourself doing that and you're like, oh, why did I just feel that way about this person?
I mean, I know from experience, it's usually to make myself feel better. Literally,
I'm
like,
doing good.
I'm better than that, and I'm better than that, and I'm better than that. And then when I see something that I think I'm not better at, just visually, I'm like, oh. And then I seek for things or people that I can be better than in my own head. I think it's all like a self-insecurity issue.
And then I guess the work would be for like that specific instance, like, okay, like when I go home tonight, I need to give myself the praise that I need, that I am great and perfect the way that I am. I don't need to put myself as better than somebody else. Like, you know, then you do the internal work necessary. Like, that's the thing, is that just catching the fat phobia is not enough, because fat phobia, as we know through this body liberation lens, includes a lot, you know? So maybe it's like you find yourself like in patterns, perhaps. Like, it's just being aware of what it is and then doing the work internally. It's usually a projection onto somebody else, you know? But I guarantee that your life will change and it will start shifting when you start allowing yourself to look for these reactions in yourself and really investigate why they're happening. It's great that, like, earlier you said fat people are hot. It's very radical. And people want to really, like, bring us down many notches when we're looking like hella good and we're confident, like on the street. That's where I feel like I get the most hate, is when I look like the best. Like, when I get like femmed up or something, especially men. I have this like theory that when they're attracted to me, they are disgusted with themselves sometimes. And then they want to like tell me how disgusting I am, but really they're actually super into me. Like, this happens all the time. Or a man, like, I'm a lesbian, so I don't really talk to that many men these days, but like when I did, this is a really common experience for a lot of people who date cis straight men, is that they are like ashamed of their attraction to you and they're embarrassed. And they get like, a lot of people, there's this like very common trope thing that happens where like a man will date a fat woman in secret. It's like very common, and they won't tell their friends. They don't want to introduce you to their family, but you could do this for like a year. Like, it's all in secret, but they'll hook up with you and they love it. Like, they love you, but they don't want anyone to know because they're so ashamed, because people are going to make fun of them because what it shows about them, like their social status, all these things. It's like so common. And so sometimes I feel like when I am like looking stereotypically like pretty, let's say, that's when I like experience the most violence, like at the club or on the streets.
It's like, what, too insulting for...
It's too powerful. But also like, oh my God, I'm attracted to her. What does this mean about me? I'm not supposed to. This is bad. She's the devil. Like, she represents something. I'm not, like, I'm disgusted with myself. But the stats show that like BBW, which is like fat, chubby, porn category, is one of the by far highest searched porn categories of all time.
Yeah. And you bring in the fact that a lot of these relationships happen in secret, it just kind of shows social behavior in general, and that kind of shame piece. And this discussion we were having is what feels really radical, of just being like, no, it is hot, and kind of like breaking that pattern of shame around it. To me, it's group behavior at its finest. It's like, oh, we're all kind of thinking that this is how we're supposed to think. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna be the one to say it because I'm ashamed. It's like, no. You can be really radical and just be like, I think she looks really fucking hot, you know?
That's like a really good way to be an ally to fat people and to change your circles. Is like, I think that in groups, like you're saying, people get really used to being fat phobic, but like whether it's on purpose or by accident. One of the most backward compliments that fat people get nonstop, especially if you're like a radical person who wears like maybe, you know, whatever, risque clothing. People go, I could never have your confidence.
Or you're so brave for wearing that.
You're so brave. Like, are they wrong? No. But what does that really say? Like, what are you really saying to me? You're not supposed to do that. And like, I could never do that. And they're like, but that's about me. It's like, no, you're projecting onto me, though, that I shouldn't be doing it either.
There's this one side of diet culture and everything, and the way our society's viewing body liberation right now, where it's like Lizzo and like pop culture icons like this. But then on the other side, we're also seeing people like Kim Kardashian, where it's like removing all of our, like removing the extra butt implants and like losing so much weight and doing a whole episode of the Kardashians just based around like excessively losing weight to get into one dress. And
that Marilyn Monroe dress there.
And all this like Ozempic talk and like all this stuff where it feels like we're kind of...
Ozempic. I can talk about that so much.
And it feels like we're going in the opposite direction again. And to me, I'm like really trying to stay headstrong right now, because it's feeling like that's so triggering.
The
like
pressure's
early
coming, huh?
2000s. also like the Tumblr vibes of these like
low,
extremely skinny people.
Yeah.
And it feels so triggering.
You can feel the cultural pressure of the shift because it happens every decade. Like the shift will happen where now we're celebrating curvier, also unachievable bodies because their bodies were unachievable before too.
Yeah.
Our bodies aren't trends.
They've always been unachievable.
Unachievable because it wasn't real. You can't choose to have your weight distributed that way, so that wasn't real. And now it's really not real as well in a different way. Like this Ozempic thing is just like really hot topic right now too. Like all of these celebrities are coming out admitting that like they are abusing a drug that's not really meant for them for weight loss. It's a drug for diabetics. And in the States right now, there's like a lack of the drug. Like people who have diabetes can't get Ozempic because people are abusing it and getting it prescribed like it's candy to lose weight. So the people who need it can't even get it right now.
That's messed up.
Yeah, there are shifts happening right now, and it makes me scared too because I was like, oh, but we were just like going in this direction, now we're going the other direction. Yeah. And that's how our society works. It loves to like have these like big shifts, like one, and
like
because
trend cycles.
That's how capitalism makes money. That's how diet culture wins because they're gonna like now we're changing it up. Yeah. Oh no, that's not cool anymore. We're all gonna lose weight now. Oh, now we're all gonna do this. Now we're gonna do it like this. It's to keep you like always needing to change. Yeah. Always more. I think like we have to come together as communities and support each other through this. It is here. I feel it. I also feel it. I'm seeing pictures. I'm seeing the celebrities. I'm seeing Kim Kardashian. They have a big impact on our society, you know? But naming it helps a lot, I think, too.
100%. And also, like, I think radically choosing to not abide by that trend. A radical movement to me right now is, like, pulling my fucking love handles out at the club.
So to end it on a positive note, in your opinion, how do we free ourselves from body insecurity and find fat joy?
Wow. There's so much fat joy in the world. I have a lot of fat joy. A lot of it first comes from the work that we've been talking about in this whole episode. It's like figuring it all out, like body liberation. Read some books, follow people who inspire you, follow people who are sharing the message of body liberation that make you question yourself, like what you're doing, what you're thinking.
Yeah. And I know you have some books here with you.
Well, this is one book that I think is like just the best book, and it's called The Body Is Not an Apology: The Power of Radical Self-Love by Sonia Renee Taylor.
Love it.
Beautiful.
This book is everything. And also, I haven't even started it yet, but I want to bring it because it's so cool, because it's a cool resource. The same book has a workbook.
Ooh.
Very cool.
So I recently got the workbook.
Get informed and do the work.
Like work on yourself.
Fantastic.
How cool.
That's awesome.
But what's so cool about this book, and this is actually a great way to end this episode. It's a great thing about this book is that a lot of people speak about body liberation and fat joy and all these things like a quest, like something you need to find in the world. But what Sonia says is that we all already have it within us. And the work that we need to do is not search for our empowerment, not search for our worth, but actually break down the walls and the weight that has been put on us through all of these systems of oppression. And that we already have the self-love and the radical self-love and the fat acceptance and all of these things within us already. We carry it with us every day, but sometimes we silence it and we get it pushed down and we're not allowed to experience it. And in the beginning of the book, she speaks of like being a child, like when you're first born into the world, you're like sometimes chubby and like, you know, fat and all these things, like so cute. And like no child is even able to like conceptualize the idea of like, ew, I'm fat or I'm chubby or just
they
like
look like the Pillsbury Doughman and they're so fucking cute.
You're just like living life, and it's like to find that joy again in yourself. And doing it out in public is like pretty radical. So I would suggest finding moments of fat joy in solidarity first, or just body joy for any person, even who's not fat. Like loving yourself will help you love fat people too, right? It's like maybe you allow yourself to look at yourself in the mirror sometimes with love. Like you just look at yourself, like you let yourself look, and you like prepare yourself with affirmations, and you hold your heart, and you're like, this is who I am. Okay, cool. Wow. Yeah. Great. You know, let yourself look. Or maybe you dance in your home a little bit. You just let things shake the way they're supposed to shake. You just let it bounce the way it's supposed to bounce and not worry. And if the feeling of judgment comes in, which it will come in because we're all just, our brains are just like formatted this way. Allow them to like come in for a second and go, I'm dancing right now though, but thank you for being here, and dance it away. Have some joy like that, or let yourself love and appreciate that fat person walking by. It's just like, oh, look at that person living life. Like, look at that person in that crop top like we talked about.
Yeah.
When I walked up the 3,000 stairs to come to this apartment, it's like, instead of being like, oh man, like I'm so out of breath, I hate myself for this, like I should be able to do this. It's like, woo, I got to the top.
You did it.
And I have friends who are like not judging that I'm out of breath. Like, yeah,
it's
breath
no
happens.
small feat.
It's like, woo, I did it. Like, fat joy is like, fall in love. Like, let yourself be loved. Like, so many of us, like, one example, like, if a partner's like, ooh, I love your, like, stomach. We go like, no, like, you're not allowed to say that. That's bad. Like, what if you were like, me too? And like, okay, I accept that. I don't agree, but I accept it. Yeah. And maybe slowly but surely, you go, actually, hell yeah, like, my stomach is cute. But you have to, like, really remember what the root of all of this is, and that's going to help a lot. Because body positivity is not enough. It's not enough to be like, I'm perfect the way I am.
Yeah.
I deserve it. I deserve to love myself, and I love myself, period. No, there are big things happening every single day, and messages that happen every single day that make that very, very hard. So at the very least, we could go, oh, you know what? I'm, like, not feeling good in my body, but I deserve these rights. I deserve to be here. I deserve to be at this rave. I deserve to be at this bookshop. I deserve to find clothes that fit. When I go to the store, I get really depressed. Like, I'm like, nothing's fitting me. Like, they don't have my size. And my partner will remind me very, like, lightly, like, it's not you that's not fitting in the sizes. The sizes are not fitting you, and you deserve to have sizes that fit you. This is, like, a systemic problem. And I think that's how we make our way.
I love that.
Yay!
Thank you. You just spat some fire on this podcast, Mike.
Spitting.
Body Liberation 101.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jenna, for being here today. You really taught us a lot, and I can't thank you enough for being here today and taking us through this journey.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan of the podcast, so I was like really stoked to be here. And it's like we're talking about fat joy and we're talking about empowerment. Like, there were a few back and forths where I was feeling like I don't deserve to be on this podcast. Like, I was telling my good friend, like, I don't think I have the knowledge. Like, I don't think I'm good enough. Like, I can't do that. I think I'm going to decline. And it was like, if you do that, like, you're going to regret it so much. Like, just go and try. And like, you both made it so comfortable. But it's just to show, like, we have these voices in our heads, and I'm so glad that I came. So thanks for inviting me and for wanting to learn about this topic, and just gotta believe in ourselves, do it and show up. Woo! We did it. Thank you.
So that is everything that we have for you today. And if you found this episode helpful, please make sure to share it with those that need it. Make sure to tune in next week because we have lots more episodes coming your way. Until next time. Peace.